Jenna Bush Hager was visibly overcome with emotion as she reported on Savannah Guthrie's missing mother, Nancy. It was revealed on Monday morning that the 84-year-old mother of the Today Show anchor, 54, was last seen on Saturday night near her home in Tucson, Arizona. According to officials, aspects of the scene at Nancy's home prompted grave concern, and drones, a helicopter, an airplane, search and rescue dogs, and volunteers are searching the local area. After Chanel Jones read out the phone number for the tip line for the case, Bush Hager said that she hopes people will call in. "We love Nancy," she continued. "I know her personally, and we want to just report, too, that she takes daily medication and she needs them for survival. She's without her medication." Ending her sentiments, Bush Hager added, "We are thinking of our dearest Savannah and her whole family right now, and our prayers go out to Savannah and her entire family." Co-host Jones also offered her heartfelt thoughts to Guthrie and her family. She initially broke the story on the Today Show alongside Craig Melvin while filling in for Guthrie. "When Craig and I did the story, we first reported this morning and put the phone number up. We can put the number up as many times as we can. I thought this is when we're at our best as a community," she said. "The people in this area and in this county, if you know anything, if you've seen anything, no matter how small, we've heard people say that before. This is when people say, let's call in and do what we can." Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos said the search for Nancy is still being treated as a search and rescue operation, but was unable to rule out the possibility of foul play. Nancy is described as 5 feet 5 inches, weighing about 150 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. It is unclear what she may have been wearing at the time of her disappearance. She is considered a vulnerable adult, mostly due to her age and physical mobility issues, deputies said, noting that she does not have any cognitive issues. Guthrie issued a statement on the news on Monday's episode of the Today Show. "I want to thank everyone for the thoughts, prayers, and messages of support," she said. "Right now, our focus remains on the safe return of our dear mom. We thank law enforcement for their hard work on this case and encourage anyone with information to contact the Pima County Sheriff's Office at 520-351-4900. Nancy was last seen in the Catalina foothills area of Tucson around 9:45 p.m. Mountain Standard Time Saturday night. The FBI is aware of the case, and the U.S. Customs and Border Protection is also assisting. No further details of the concerning evidence found at Nancy's home have been shared. There are some things there that are concerning to us. We just don't want to miss anything," Nano said. She had rehearsed dozens of openings in her head that morning. Light, brisk, something to lift the audience into a new day. But the world outside the studio felt too heavy for any practiced cheer. The set lights haloed the desk in the familiar golden glow. Cameras hummed with the steady, anonymous breath of television. Jenna Bush Hager sat straight-backed, hands folded on the polished surface, and when the teleprompter offered the facts they had been asked to carry, her voice trembled before it found its measure. "Nancy Guthrie, Savannah's mother, has been reported missing in Arizona," she said, and the words landed like pebbles in a pond. They rippled slow and wide. Jenna's eyes glistened. She blinked them away and kept going because the thing about live television is that time refuses to pause for grief. She read aloud what the audience needed to know, where Nancy was last seen, the description, the plea for information. But it was the human punctuation between the lines that made people lean in. "We love Nancy," Jenna said, and the camera stayed on her, close and unblinking. "I know her personally, And we want to just report, too, that she takes daily medication and she needs them for survival. The word survival scraped the air. The studio's usual soundtrack of laughter and applause had been swapped for a hush. Across the desk, Chanel Jones read the tip line number as if speaking a spell that might open a door to answers. Jenna's voice threaded in and out of the rhythm, small and urgent. When she finished, the composure that had lived in her like a professional armor slipped. Her shoulders sagged. For a beat, a breath, she let herself feel the fracture in the world that news like this creates. A family's ordinary life interrupted, a daughter at her anchor desk miles away from the place that had gone suddenly, rawly absent. Outside the studio, in the sleepy foothills north of Tucson, the neighborhood still looked like the kind of place where people left doors unlocked and borrowed garden hoses without a second thought. But the scene investigators recorded there was not ordinary. Something at Nancy's home prompted grave concern, according to authorities, and the quiet streets were now threaded with the formal discipline of search teams. Drones, helicopters, dog units, and volunteers combing through brush and arroyo. The county sheriff's words echoed in the studio and later across the country. They were treating the case as a search and rescue operation while not ruling out foul play. The story had begun to unfold over the weekend. Family members had last seen Nancy late Saturday night. By Sunday morning, when she did not show up for a virtual church service and could not be located, alarm bells sounded. Her wallet, her phone, even the family car were still at home. Small, ordinary things that suddenly seemed to mean everything. The sheriff underscored another quietly terrifying fact. Nancy, 84, takes daily medications that are vital to her well-being. The idea of an elderly woman, steady-minded and beloved, cut off from that lifeline made the entire country lean forward in a way that only certain stories can do. Television, for all its production polish, is not very good at containing human tenderness. When Jenna spoke of Savannah, the anchor who had become not only a colleague to many but a friend, there was no script shorthand that could stand in for the private ache. "We are thinking of our dearest Savannah and her whole family right now," she said into the studio's soft light, and the words were both public statement and private prayer. She remembered, she said, how Nancy had visited the show, how the older woman's laugh had fit into the rhythm of the set like an extra refined punctuation mark. In those memories, the missing woman lived for a few fragile seconds more. Later, when the segment cut to footage of search teams fanning out across canyons and wash, Jenna's composure fractured into something closer to human weather. Tears slid down her cheeks in a small, steady line, and she let them. The cameras kept rolling, because the cameras always keep rolling. But for the moment it felt as though the studio had folded inward to make space for sorrow. In that space she spoke plainly, without the performative cadence that anchors usually wrap their words in. She pleaded. She asked people to call if they knew anything. She asked for the kind of community action that turns the anonymous mass of viewers into a grid of eyes and hands willing to help. The phone number for tips flashed on the screen, repeatedly a digital lighthouse. 520-351-4900. The repetition was not just protocol. It was an insistence that, in cases like this, small acts, the noticing of a tire track, the memory of a voice, can be the hinge upon which everything turns. Chanel emphasized this. "This is when we're at our best as a community," she said. "If you know anything, no matter how small." The plea was simple and unstoppable because it asked for the single most powerful thing people have: attention. Outside of the cameras, The story was braiding itself through the town. Volunteers who once walked their Labradors at sunset now swept cliff tops with flashlights. Church groups shaped search parties with the same hands that folded bulletins the week before. The sheriff's department moved through the neighborhood not as interlopers, but as partners to a family under siege by uncertainty. Their investigators treated the property as a crime scene, collecting evidence, photographing footprints and doors, and cataloging anomalies that felt like clues. At a press briefing, Sheriff Chris Nanos did not sugarcoat the fear. There were things at the house that caused grave concern, but he also spoke protective words for the family, explicitly clearing them of suspicion, an attempt to stem the cruel gossip that often accompanies such high-profile cases. Back in the studio, the human details piled up into images that stopped people in their tracks. Nancy, a woman of a certain age accustomed to small pleasures, a daughter who had become a national figure yet remained. Above all, someone's child. The family's plea broadcast into millions of living rooms, small boxes of light across the country. Savannah, who had been off the air, made her own statement through the network. I want to thank everyone for the thoughts, prayers, and messages of support, she said, her voice steady but strained. Right now, our focus remains on the safe return of our dear mom. The family's gratitude to law enforcement and their encouragement to anyone with information to come forward felt like the only script they had. One of hope leaned hard into the work of finding answers. In the days that followed, the narrative shifted, as such stories do, from absence to speculation, then to evidence, and with every turn, the public consciousness tightened its focus. Surveillance footage from the night showed a masked individual near the property. Gloves with DNA not matching family members were found near the scene. Investigations widened. The FBI became involved, national agencies offered support, and the story that